everyone, it's Grace here for Visordown. There has been a flurry of new metal that has come to the market for 2025. So Toad is currently away testing something else exciting coming to the channel. So I've headed out to the circuit of Andalucia in Spain to ride the brand new Ducati Streetfighter V4 and bring you all the latest updates right here at Visordown. Now, we've had to wait a little longer to ride the new Streetfighter V4, considering its sister bike, the Panigale V4, was let loose back in autumn last year. But this new Streetfighter is now closer than ever in performance to its sibling. Ducati say they've applied their fight formula to the Panigale and voila, you have yourself a Streetfighter. So what does that actually mean? Well, Ducati say that this is the first time in history that they have transferred so many features from a Panigale V4 to a naked bike. They wanted to create a bike that has plenty of track handling like a super sport bike, but have the road enjoyment of a true naked. So compared to the Panigale, bar the odd tweak, the engine is exactly the same, as is the chassis and the electronics package and a race braking system to make it even more effective on track. And that's where we've had the chance to test it out here at Andalucia. So I'll come on to talking about certain features of the bike and what I found from our test here, but I'll first start by listing a few specs and headlines about the bike. So the Streetfighter V4 is a 1103cc V4 with a maximum torque figure of 120 Newton meters at 11,250 RPM and produces 214 brake horsepower at 13,500 RPM. That's a difference of 2 horsepower compared to the Panigale, which Ducati say is down to differences in the intake, but it is up 6 horsepower compared to the previous Streetfighter. And if 214 brake horsepower isn't enough for you, then you can rise that to 226 brake horsepower with the optional Akrapovic racing exhaust if you really wanted those figures. There has never been a more powerful or lighter Streetfighter V4. It is the first time in history that it's closely related to their MotoGP bikes. Things like the architecture of the engine, the sound and their technical solutions have all had an impact on the creation of this new engine. So, as I mentioned before, the engine is the same as the Panigale, and that is paired with the same chassis and electronics package. So the Streetfighter V4 also gets Ducati's Vehicle Observer, which is their wizardry that goes on in here somewhere, but basically it comprises of about 70 sensors in addition to the IMU that constantly work to monitor and adapt the bike to different riding conditions. So you can change the levels of things like traction control, slide control, wheelie control and engine braking, and you also get Ducati's quick shift and power launch as standard. So we've been riding the V4S, which is the top of the range model, and one of the main differences between this and the stock bike are that you get all-round Öhlins smart semi-active EC3 suspension and steering damper on the S model. Whereas on the V4, it's a mechanical, fully adjustable Showa fork on front and a fully adjustable Sachs monoshock on the rear, as well as a Sachs steering damper. On the S, you also get the forged aluminium wheels. Carbon fibre wheels are an optional extra, and a lithium-ion battery which contributes to an overall weight of 189 kilograms. That's wet weight without fuel, which is 4 kilograms less than the previous Streetfighter. Now the S comes in at £24,995, whereas the standard V4 is £22,895. So, a pretty expensive bit of kit, and we've had the day here at Andalucia to test it out. So we had about 6 sessions in the gorgeous sunshine, and I used the first few sessions to figure out where I'm going. It is a really demanding track, so it took a bit to get familiar with the layout and then started pushing a bit harder in the afternoon. which was easily done on a machine that produces 214 brake horsepower. So where do I start? For me, as a 5'4" rider weighing 60 kilograms and does a handful of track days each year, 214 is more than enough on a naked bike. Down the straight here, with no wind protection up front, it blows your bonkers off. It's fast, basically. Yeah, it's fast. On the point of being fast, I wanted to touch on these new Aerodynamics sort of biplane wings that we've got up front, which have been developed with their MotoGP findings, and Ducati say they apply more than 17 kilograms of downforce at about 160 miles per hour. So they really come into their own on track. Now, some people would say, oh, you don't need all that for the road, but apparently anything over 30, 40 miles per hour, they start to have an effect on the bike. And Ducati say it wouldn't even be a consideration to not have them on this bike. You know, they're able to have a shorter wheelbase by having the wings because a bike like this needs it and it has such a positive effect on the stability. Personally, I think they look good and they make the bike look faster still, but if you're going to take it on track, then it's just another addition to this package that will improve the overall performance and stability of the bike. And you need every bit of stability you can get on a bike that is this powerful, so I'll take it. But the performance from this engine is just blistering. So it was suggested to me that I start the day in sport mode, which is designed for fast road riding. And in this mode, the power was set to medium with a medium level of intervention from the electronics, but a softer suspension setting. The bike still felt powerful enough when I was learning the circuit, still really sharp at the front and plenty of torque. But when I got a bit more familiar with the circuit, I then moved up to the race mode, which turned the power to high and lowers pretty much all of the intervention, lowered the traction control, turned the braking system to track mode, and it was so good. It just sharpened the whole bike. The throttle was a lot more responsive and the slide by brake system is just brilliant. It is a handful to ride, especially going over some of these crests and dips here at Andalucia, but it still felt sharp and composed. Now, there was talk of some people turning some features completely off, but the Ducati team were not so keen on any features being completely turned off. They say, we work hard to make these packages work, and the preset modes with the odd tweak here and there are really what they recommend. They were saying that they have meetings at Ducati HQ where they look and decide the features from Ducati course and what will make its way down to the road bikes, and the Ducati Vehicle Observer is one of those things. Now, not many bikes have this new Smart EC3 suspension. You can find it, of course, on the Panigale and the new Fireblade, both focused sports bikes, but also the Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS, their top-of-the-range naked bike, has been one of the most recent announcements to get the EC3 treatment, all of which I've ridden, and it is astonishingly good. And it's exactly the same on the Streetfighter V4S. The previous model was known for being a bit of a bull to control at high speeds, and you still have to be a matador with this thing, but this suspension package has made it feel so controlled, especially on some of these undulations here. It's really responsive, but not in an intrusive way. Just makes the handling brilliant. You get movement from the bike when you're diving on the brakes, but not in a jerky way. It just gives you even more feel, more comfort, and a smoother ride. The electronics are constantly adapting to the surface and the way you're riding, and it just supports you throughout the corner, on braking in the entry to mid-corner and looking after the rear when you accelerate, making sure the bike doesn't squat too much and you have a nice amount of rebound as well at the front. It is so good and so seamless. Now, I haven't actually touched on the brakes yet. So the Panigale is the first motorcycle in the world equipped with the Brembo high pure front brake calipers. And now with the Streetfighter being so closely related, this too gets the high pures, both on the V4 and the V4S. So they are lighter and better at dispersing heat than the Stylema calipers. So you can really push the limit with these things. And I could confidently trail the brake into some of the corners here. I got such a responsive and reassuring feel from the brakes that it egged me on to brake later. And with all the electronics at play as well, the whole package gives you confidence going into the corners. Also, something to note that I played around with in the race mode is this clever technology through the cornering ABS setup that when you apply the front brakes as you enter a corner, it applies and modulates the rear brake for you without you needing to step on the pedal and apply the back brake. So it manages the load transfer for you and improves the stability of the bike. I was definitely having myself a bit of that, and anything to feel more like a MotoGP rider. I mean, I was a bit apprehensive at first that it was going to be applying brakes for me, but actually it works so well and feels really composed. And there's so much that Ducati have done with this bike to make it more track inclined, not just of course with the electronics and braking system, but the ergonomics as well. So compared to the previous model, the foot pegs have been moved inwards by 10mm to allow for more lean angle. The tank has been reshaped with these textured parts here added for better grip on your legs. And the seat is wider and longer. So I found there was plenty of room to move around on the bike, and these little nips and tucks here and there made it so easy for me to hang off, and I could really use my body a lot more and anchor myself using the tank. Now, considering they're looking at this for a road ride, they've also moved the handlebars closer to the rider by 10mm, and the seat is a bit thicker, just for that more comfortable road ride. For the track, I did experience a bit of peg scraping, and it wasn't so comfortable with the higher bars, but I guess that's something that you've got to weigh up depending on how much you use the bike on track. But generally, the riding position was great, and I didn't find it held me back too much. What is the verdict then? Well, it's obvious that Ducati wanted to keep the sporty prowess of the Panigale, but in an option that makes it slightly easier to ride on the road. And whilst we've only tested it here on track, I don't doubt that this would make for a fantastic road bike with the more upright riding position, that brilliant peaky engine that just keeps pulling, and the multiple modes and suspension settings all accessible with a few button clicks. There is so much tech on this bike that one day of riding only just scratches the surface with it all and what's available, including some features that are road specific. So there's a new cruise detection feature that softens the suspension when it detects a constant pace, like when you're on the motorway, for instance. We've not tried that today, but it just shows the breadth of technology that's to be accessed. For your everyday rider, like me, the sheer presence of a bike like this can be intimidating at first, with the wings and the power output and the fact that the previous bike was a bit of a rodeo ride. But when you started pushing, and don't get me wrong, this is still a fire-breathing monster. This almost handled better the faster you went. And I was reassured with all the new electronics. It's the first time a Streetfighter has got a double-sided swing arm, the wings, the exhaust, all of that has sort of tamed the beast a bit. It's still dynamite and it still wants a bit of a fight, but it's a lot more composed and still having a lot of character. If you want a race bike, get a Panigale, but if you want an emotive road ride with the occasional blast on track, then this will do just that. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this video, then please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, both here and at Visordown.com.